All right, everybody, welcome on back to the Cinema Lords podcast. This is going to be our House of the Dragon episode 4 review, or recap, I should say. And it's going to be a big episode today. That episode this week was fucking crazy, so I'm very excited to talk about it. And it's a big show because we also got 3 of the Minifans in the house. We got our own little round table, my own small council this week. I got Luke, got Mick, got John and Scranton. Boys, what's going on? How are we doing?
Doing well. I'm going to say it first. I said it first.
I was waiting for someone to say it. I'm doing really well.
Everyone's so polite.
Yeah, it's a huge thing when you just throw it to the group. I love when people throw it to a group on this.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of that with me.
Yeah. Doing well, buddy.
Good. I appreciate having all you guys here. I appreciate it a lot. So thanks for coming.
Oh, yeah.
What did you guys actually, before we get into this week, let me get where you guys all were as like going into this episode this week through the first 3 weeks. How was your vibe to the show? Like, were you enjoying it? What were your thoughts? Anybody?
I thought episode 3 was a little slow, just compared to the first 2. Excuse me. Episode 2 as well was a little bit slower. I thought episode 1 was fantastic. Maybe not a 10 out of 10, but probably give it an 8 out of 10. And this most recent one, I won't go too far into it, but I would give it probably a 10 out of 10. So as far as the season goes, I'm not disappointed. I was getting a little frustrated because it was getting a little slow between episodes 2 and 3. I guess they're kind of setting it up and plotting, but episode 4 did not disappoint.
Okay, pretty much exactly how I feel. Boys, no. Luke, John.
I got a problem with this show where I just can't remember anybody's name. So I only really but I don't know what it is. I've got like a mental block with this one in particular. It might be because all their names are kind of similar.
Yeah, half of them have the same name with like an S at the end.
Yeah, so I kind of go more off of just like appearance and I just call that one guy the Doctor Who Damon, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just like Mick said. It seems like every other episode is kind of more exciting, and then we get like our kind of setup episodes, which it's kind of been par for the course for the series so far. The first season I struggled with, honestly.
Yeah,
a lot of setup in the first season.
Yeah, I think when you look at when this is all done, the whole series, and you go back and watch it, then you're going to appreciate it all a lot more.
Bring up
the whole picture.
I just restarted watching all like season 6 through the end of the old Game of Thrones, and I was like a semi-hater of the old show. And like when you watch it just in a sitting, and if you kind of take the perspective of like they kind of knew the ending, we didn't. It's actually not bad how they ended the show. Like they did what they had to do. It's actually not a bad rewatch. There are some dumb things, and I think the same goes with this. When we get it in one sitting, I think it'll be great. But like every week we expect like dragons to have sex and battle at the same time. Right. So it's we're always a little let down. But this last episode, obviously 10 out of 10 battle. It's the first time dragons ever battled in Westeros. Like you can't. Beat that.
Was this the first time there's ever been?
In Westeros, dragons battled, basically, like full battle. Like that's in Westeros, that is. So it's like
that shot of Vhagar and Meleys like circling each other in the sky was ridiculous. I was like, this is like I felt like I was at war. It was unbelievable.
That's huge because like in the book,
for this episode.
Yeah, in the book they just say like no one knows what happened. It's just like in the clouds you just see is circles of shadows and fireballs. So like they did a great job with this episode. I disagree with Mick. I loved last episode. I thought
a lot of people did.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought like it was the first time like this show found its footing, which is a setup episode. Usually Game of Thrones finds its footing on setup episodes. Like that's when you realize like, oh shit, the show's good as fuck. Like their setup is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this episode knocked it out of the park. Like great battle. Christian Cole is just a fucking cuck. I hate him.
You guys went a completely different direction than me. I was going to ask if that was like the most graphic simulated blowjob there's ever been on like a TV show or a movie.
It was pretty animated.
I mean, it wasn't even really simulated. It looked like it was just a blowjob.
Yeah.
So that shocked me. I'm going to be honest with you. I was like, whoa, damn, wild.
Ooh, I'm shocked.
I said like I was kind of not disappointed. I really loved episode 1, 2, and 3. Like 2, I wasn't surprised was a setup. 3 being another setup kind of surprised me. Yeah. And I even said like I didn't even need this full blown battle that we got at the end of this episode. I actually liked enough of it, or at least I thought like plot lines were actually moving forward. Like Aemond and Aegon have a real fucking divide now that's very noticeable that you can see. Damon shit took another step forward. There's a lot like the Allen guy too, which was a storyline that I thought was kind of just random, and we had no real like subtext of it or anything like that. That
So,
got a
real
little
quick,
bit of footing this week too. So
is he confirmed this bastard son? Like I don't. I didn't read the
it
book.
seems
So
that
what
way.
background?
I think he's gonna end up being a dragon seed. I think.
Yeah, what background?
Yeah.
Because he turns into, and his brother does too in the books. I don't know how we are on spoilers, but that's not a spoiler. It's in the books. They can go a completely different way, make one of them a dragon seed and one not. But there's 6 dragons that are unclaimed right now. So it's like at a certain point in the show, and I think it actually starts next episode, they start looking for the seeds. So
See, that's a storyline I'm very interested in.
yeah.
Well,
so
they started introducing.
you don't have any background on the actual Dance of the Dragon story. You're just watching this raw, basically.
Yeah, for the most part. I've done some like the 2 fucking literal textbooks that they fucking came out with. I've done a little bit of browsing through those and shit. So there are names and stuff that I recognize that I just like I don't necessarily know exactly what that like that Hugh the Hammer guy. Like that's a name that I know from reading certain shit. I don't know exactly where he's gonna fit in and of it, but I know he plays a role.
Like they're setting
yeah,
up.
that's what I figured. All of these
That's what I
new
was
characters that they're introducing, I assumed were
A lot of
like
people
the Targaryen
think
guy last week and shit.
These boring storylines, like it's actually because they're those boring storylines that are going on right now, like the Hammer and that's kind of stuff. Like they're actually just showing you a massive part of the story down the road.
Yeah.
So it's like this is actually cool for somebody who knows, but it's if you don't know, it's kind of like, what is this guy in his house talking to his wife about food in the city for? You know, it's like that's a massive part of this story because the city starves at one point. So that's huge, you know. And you saw that today or this last episode, like when Damon's having that dream, you see when he passes that goat.
Yes.
To symbolize like the dragons are just wiping, like they're going to war with these dragons and they're just wiping out the food like in the whole country. So
is that the opening dream?
Yeah, opening dream. He walks right past this goat just eating in the middle of the throne. Because
none of that's in the book, by the way. So that's all completely new territory.
The
dreams?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's in there. I love that storyline too. I don't know about.
I like it too. It's cool. I was shocked when I saw Millie Alcock. She's so hot.
Yeah,
I love her.
Yeah,
that's the kind of shit I like to know, though. Is stuff that's not in the books. That's
that's kind of taken.
So I'll just tell you with the fight there with Vagar and I don't know Meles or whatever. Yeah. They end up in the book the way it's described, but you have different narrators in the books, and they're all unreliable. Is that like basically when Daemon and Vagar come in, they try to break it up and they like body slam both of them, all 3 of them to the ground. So, and then obviously in the show we just watched, they make a point of him saying Dracarys and burning his brother. So I'll be curious. I think his brother's going to live. I'm just curious. Is he going to remember that his brother?
He does. Spoilers.
Yeah. So is he going to remember his brother?
I'll make sure, like any spoilers I do, so like this is stuff that's established. Like I know there's storylines that there's not established. I won't say any spoil, but like that's he is a very important part of this story. Like he does.
Well, they showed him at the end. With
if you don't see a dead body in this show, then you can almost guarantee they're alive.
And Cole stopped him from going over with the sword. I mean, that was the most telling part. He was ready to kill his brother right then and there and become. Is Aegon now with Jaehaerys dead? Is he next in line? Like I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Would be next.
Yeah,
in line,
because
probably.
he only has a daughter now in the show.
Right. So he has no use for Aegon.
In the books, he has one more son he would be able to go to, but
I thought they showed that kid
storyline that's in the books. Like Aemon's basically takes the saddle here now for a little bit. So
people were saying that the Cheese storyline was different from the books because there is no second.
Wait, what was that? You broke up a little bit.
People were saying Cheese is different from the book because she has a second son to pick. Yeah, and this is only the one son.
Right. Yes, in the book,
picture, I'd imagine it go to Aemon.
She's able to pick between 2 sons, but they just showed it as a son and a girl. She had the 2 sons and a girl in the books. It's just this girl wasn't an option. Yeah. Which if she was given an option between the 2, a boy and a girl, like what kind of idiot didn't say the girl? I'm sorry, it's a pretty dumb move though. But yeah, especially for someone who has visions of the future.
I would have to imagine that is why. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, they're going to introduce Darren here pretty soon too, probably in this next episode. I don't know if you remember they mentioned
next kid, right?
My son in Old Town. Yeah, or the grandson in Old Town when the hand Otto goes back there. That's what it was. he mentions is great. I think they're going to show up next episode.
Yeah, they said he was going to be in this season, so I'm looking forward to that because like that's the thing about this show, like there's almost an overload of characters to the point where people might lose grasp of who's who. But once you get a grip on who's who and who's whose brother, like the fact that now they're introducing it, like you're like, well, I'm hyped for that because I've been waiting. Like that changes the whole story. There's, you know, your whole view on things and shit like that. So like he's a big part of the story too. But they could go any way they want. Like this Wood Witch story is a little different in the books, but like how they're
interested in all that.
Yeah, how they're showing it basically in the show is just through these dreams, and so they're just showing how haunted Harrenhal is. Plus, this witch being there is a lot to do with it too. But in the books, it's really just Damon pretty much goes mad. Like everybody goes mad in that castle.
I got a lot of questions about that lady because I mean, I'm not sure if they're trying to do it intentionally, but she's eerily similar to the Red Woman from Game of Thrones. And the way she speaks is very similar as far as the way she sounds. So I don't know if they're going for like just trying to confuse people and get them, you know, thinking. But she's going to play a major part here. I think
she's more of like a
riddles.
Yeah, she's more like a witch of old god. So like she would be like a Westerosi witch, a wood witch. Like you know,
I think what Mick's saying though is they did sort of frame her the same way they framed the Red Lady.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I got the same thing when I first saw her. I immediately thought of the Red Lady.
This show has a problem. This show has a problem with they make their characters try and reflect a character from the original series. I'd say almost too much. Like let them be their own characters. Let us make that kind of judgment. Like, yeah, like she is kind of like the Red, but like in actuality, she has nothing like the Red Woman. You know, like that's a whole different type of magic and religion and shit. So it's like, but yeah, they have a problem with doing like Jaime Lannister is Daemon and blah blah. You know, like there's a lot of just clear reflections of old characters.
I got you.
Yeah.
What are we making of actually, especially as you guys said, the Daemon dreams aren't in the books. So we had two big scenes as far as him dreaming this week. That's why they actually opened up the episode was with a Daemon dream. He cuts off fucking Rhaenyra's head, the young version of her, like you said, fucking Allie Mitchcock. What do you guys make of these dreams?
I thought the one of him chasing Aegon was even more like it was like a version of Aegon. It wasn't even actually Aegon. It was like
it was an older version of him, but with the eye. Yeah,
so I don't know.
He hasn't seen him in years.
Is that why? So I was going to say, is it because he hasn't seen him in so long? Is that you can't really remember what he looks like?
It's also.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Where their battle eventually takes place is called the God's Eye. So that was also meant to foreshadow the fact that battle is going to, because it's actually Daemon and his eye is taken out. It's meant to reflect Aemond, but also reflect that this battle is going to go down at the God's Eye.
Yeah, see, I just took that as like Aemon obviously looks up to Daemon big time, so I thought there was something there. That's why he saw it as himself. But
yeah,
I do like the idea of him just not remembering what he looks like because it's been fucking whatever 20 years or so.
Yeah, I love the dreams part. I love the I love that part. I love that whole Harrenhal storyline, man. I'm obsessed with the fact it's just a haunted castle and shit, man.
When he is with Alice Rivers in her little like potions room, do you think like is that a dream or is that reality?
That's the point of them though. They work on the basis of in between. So like that's why when he just wakes up in the middle of a conversation.
I didn't know if that was real either.
Powerful her magic is. Like he doesn't even know, first of all, if there's magic going on, let alone like he woke up not knowing if yesterday started or today begun yet. So it's like that damn, this bitch is crazy.
She's very powerful. She seems to know what she's doing.
But like there is a character just like this in the old show, Maggie the Frog. She's the one who gave Cersei the like prophecy that her kids were gonna die and shit.
Oh
but,
yeah.
The world is very powerful in magic. Like it's
that either opens up a season or closes out a season.
What's that?
I said that either opens up a season. It's like I think it's open. Yeah. After Job. We also get to see the kid from season 1 during it's not during the Daemon dream. It's when he comes out of it, I guess. But the Blackwood kid, he's all grown up now, fresh off stabbing that dude in the fucking the throne room. That was great.
This
So-
show has a bunch of younger kids in it too, which is great. I love that because they have a lot of responsibility. That's the shitty thing about this war. It took place when like everyone's lord was like 15 or 12. Like that's a big problem in the realm, you know.
I thought
sorry.
Oh, no, you're right. I thought for this episode, both Aegon and Jace, I think you get to see what they're both all about. Where Aegon, he gets yelled at by Allison by, basically like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm the king, and she's just like, just do what you're told. Your job is basically to sit there and do nothing.
Shut up and dribble.
You're right. Shut up and dribble. Yeah. But my point is he seems so frustrated by it, where he's willing to do something crazy because all he wants is just be like accepted and be looked at as a real king. Where Jace is, he's the heir to the throne, and he's willing to put himself on the line before Rhaenyra. Because he's like, you know what, like you can't do it. And he values like the actual throne of it. And I don't know, it was so telling where Jace was willing to put himself at battle, and nobody trusted Aegon at all to go to battle. I don't know. I thought that was pretty telling.
They do such a good job of character building. So like just the fact, like his family line. So you think like that guy who is his actual father, like he's all honor guy. Like I'm running first in a battle guy. So like that's why that son's like that. And then like they do such a good job. Like this family acts this way. All of them will somehow, some way,
right?
A little bit or a lot of a bit. I love that about this show. He's so good at that, and like detailed. Like he goes all the way down to the color of their clothes. It's detailed. Like you know what I mean? Like
for sure. No, yeah. And like they make it so apparent that at least with Aegon, like at times he seems so miserable as like a king, and like you can just see it on his face, and like he's supposed to be like the most well-respected person, and he really isn't, and it can tell it bothers him. I think the only time you ever see him really happy, I saw this online, so I'm not taking this thought. I'm stealing this from somebody, I don't remember who, but the only time you really ever see him like smiling and happy is when he was with his kid, who's now dead, Jaehaerys, or when he was with his dragon, who's now also dead. Yeah. So, I mean, that was really because you can tell in that scene in the most recent episode, the dragon kind of, nudges him. I forget the name of it, but it nudges him in the chest. And he starts just like, he's smiling ear to ear, and you can tell he actually has like a
drunk drove his dragon.
It's like a big dog.
Putting two lives in danger, dude. Come on, man.
You could tell that dragon's like seen him like that before. He's like, oh shit, all right, we like that. Let's go, man.
A lot of blurry rides for my guy. He's like country ride.
Yes. Leo landing his helicopter in Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
They do drive home the fact, even with on his dragon, that he doesn't do Valerian. Like he gets embarrassed by Aemond in the small council meeting, and then they kind of, I really think, push that too with the whole last, say, 15, 20 minutes. You hear Aemond talking to Vhagar and Valerian. You hear Rhaenys using words other than Dracarys, talking to her, saying attack. She's obviously fluent, or, in Valerian. You got Aegon, who's the only one talking to it in English or whatever.
Yeah.
That goes to at the end of the episode when he's kind of bitching to Alicent about stuff, and he's like, nobody respects me, and she says like, well, why should they?
Yeah.
That was a huge theme of that episode. He didn't put the work in.
Yeah,
he doesn't know how to speak the language. He spent like, I remember the times you saw him early on in the show. He was jerking off out the window. He raped the servant girl.
Yeah.
He was like he wasn't working.
They do a good job throughout all of Game of Thrones and this show. Like he does a good job to show how like maybe the right guy is just one person away from the guy who has it, and he even may have qualities that won't make him good. But they like always show like the right person's actually just your dumb system away from you guys having the best guy. But this is the way the system goes, and that's a big over theme in this fucking show, especially because Rhaenyra is not supposed to be queen; she's a girl. Girls.
You said one thing a minute ago, John, about like sons following their fathers and shit like that. And I think that's very evident in like, say, Thrones, which we've seen a lot of families. But that's kind of, I feel like, what they say about the Targaryens. They say every time one's born, they like the gods flip a coin or whatever. Like that's why there's so much sporadic difference between fucking different ones.
Like the king that came before Viserys is ruled for 88 years. He's the best. Like we're listening to the book right now, and we're on his chapters. Like he's the best king. Like from when he was 10 till he was 88, he was an awesome king. Like the only issues they ever had was, can girls be queen, or in like they had that big council about it and blah blah blah. So, like, but he made there was the most dragons, the most Targaryens when he was king. Like So like
Rhaenys mentioned it last week to the council. She said that he had ruled for the longest peaceful transition for whatever, even more so than Aegon the Conqueror.
Yeah, he's called the Old King, the man, Jaehaerys. Jaehaerys the Conciliator.
So the same name as the kid that got his head sewn off, right?
Yeah, tough. Real tough. Kind of symbolism too. They're just cutting the head off. They're basically cutting the head off of basically the dynasty that he built. Like that's basically a good foreshadow of that.
I kind of mentioned Rhaenys meeting Alan, or coming across him at the docks, which I did think. So I got the impression that obviously he is the bastard, but I also got the impression that Alan knew that too, which I think explains kind of some of the other scenes that we've seen from him, like necessarily wanting anything toward Corlys or wanting to even convert. I kind of get the impression that he was kind of almost standoffish, like you weren't here my whole life, Dad. Like kind of fuck you. I only because it was my job basically to save you.
Yeah, I could definitely get that feeling as well. And I think the one he's talking to, I'm blanking on her name. What's the older aunt's name? The one who died.
Rhaenys.
Yeah. When he's talking to Rhaenys, it almost seems like he wants nothing to do with that conversation, meaning like, he knows who she is. So I think that they're definitely trying to imply that.
So this is like a book storyline kind of a thing. And like how I said, the boring stories might be actually some of the biggest. Like what they're just kind of figuring out and showing everybody is like he saved Corlys Valerian's life. Like he should be raised to a higher rank.
Yeah, that was a good line from her.
He's not doing it specifically because he knows it's his bastard. They both know he's his bastard.
Right.
But like, and this Alan guy is so honorable, he won't say anything about him, blah, blah, blah. So like they're kind of showing that even Corlys Valerian, who we all think is just this doll in the weeds, so even he has some fucking issues too. Like he can't raise his bastard to a higher, like he should be given Driftmark. The whole family should be his. He has no heir right now. So it's like just holding him off, and then he eventually rides a dragon. So
yeah, the fucking Corlys, no love for his grandkids at all.
None.
Zero. Yeah, no loyalty.
None.
Like what the hell, Grandpa? What the fuck?
Yeah,
seriously,
he's a legend in the story. Like Corlys Valerian's a legend. Like he sailed, like his fleet's legendary. But he was
one of the guys rumored to get his own show, basically. I think it was going to be called the Sea Snake.
Yeah, it would be.
Oh,
sick.
I would be so down for that.
Right.
That would be
so many cool parts of their world. Like there's.
I think that one got canned.
Yeah, I think so.
They canned everything except for this and Dunkin' Egg. I think
Dunkin' Egg is going to be awesome.
What's Dunkin' Egg? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, that's the tall. Oh God.
They mentioned
Night
it
of
a
the
little
Seven
bit.
Kingdoms. Looked at space.
It's kind of like a buddy comedy.
Right? A buddy comedy. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's like Dunkin' Egg's kind of like a buddy comedy.
It is. It's like a.
They're
Uncle
traveling
Buck.
around doing.
Yeah, it's an Uncle Buck style comedy.
Okay, I'm all in.
It'll be good.
But it shows another great Targaryen king when he's a kid, when he's like 100 people away from the crown.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a cool story, bro. That's if I were to read a Game of Thrones book, read Dunkin' Egg, man. It's awesome.
So
that was one of the shorter reads too, right? I think that one's
one of the short stories. There's a couple short stories.
Yeah, there's one that everyone knows about, and there's two that came out after that they don't know about, but then they made one book that's all of them.
That's what I got. The 3-part all in one.
Yeah. It's a good story though. It's fucking.
But even then, it's still not that long. So.
No, when Joffrey's making fun of Jamie, he talks about how Sir Duncan the Tall has 4 pages in the White Book, and Jamie Lannister only has 1. So Duncan the Tall is Dunk from Dunkin' Egg.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Well, that sounds like it'll be a good time. I like a buddy comedy in fucking Game of Thrones. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah. So the Jon Snow one's officially gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank God.
As you said, I didn't have high hopes for that. So
they shouldn't do anything with the modern timeline, or like with they should just.
The only modern timeline I would want is possibly, if they do it good, would be Arya going west.
I would save that for like 10 years from now. Make that.
Yeah.
Let this world so you can build a better future. What's going to happen next? Kind of a deal. Like let our generation of kids make those. Yeah. So we have something to look forward to, and don't fuck it up like Star Wars.
So a good tide jump would work because, like, you figure figure out east would figure out west at some point.
Exactly.
One person makes the journey.
Yeah, exactly. There's nobody who has made it past the Western Sea, so it's like you have that whole opportunity. That's all of like what they consider Asia in their world. So it's like you could do a whole samurai story in Game of Thrones world. Can you imagine, dude? How good that would be? Oh,
You know.
Jesus.
I just started Fire and Blood actually, and I saw that Rhaenys. That was one of her dreams to do before she died, was to fly to whatever's west.
Yes, yeah.
I just broke that bitch open yesterday.
That bitch, dude. She's the best.
Rhaenys, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, I just bang anybody I want.
Hell yeah.
There was a call.
That's why I love Cersei even more in the books. Go ahead.
In this, there was a callback in this episode. I noticed. So I rewatched episode 1 after I finished episode 4 last night. Just I was playing a game. I wanted to do something for another hour.
Mhm.
So Rhaenyra and Daemon have that fight after in the first episode after the kid gets killed at the end of the last season.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra basically, and I kept thinking because her ghost is like, you ruined my life or whatever.
Yeah.
She kind of figured out that Daemon doesn't see himself as the king consort. He sees himself as the king.
Oh, it's huge.
And then when they're in Harrenhal, what's his face keeps calling him Prince, and he says something like, oh, I didn't know, because you're the consort, and he does. So they're really driving that point home.
Oh yeah,
Alice calls him on it this week too.
Yeah. His dreams are. That's why he's cutting her head off. Like the crown falls, all that shit. Like she's because he fell in love with the young girl. She's wearing the older Rhaenyra's clothes. Like there's a bunch of hidden symbols in that shit too, if you get real deep into it. But yeah, no, the whole point is that like Daemon was passed over like 100 times by now. He's basically Mick. He's basically
Ricochet shot and a half right there.
In an honor. Damon's the man, dude. Like, and trust me, he goes to like, he's a fucking legend, bro. But that's what it's meant to show. And like, he kind of only teams up with her to become the king consort, and then even that's not good enough for him, kind of showing that.
I think like everybody that's watching this show, I think the majority of people would probably say Damon's their favorite character.
You think Carm, my girlfriend's least favorite? She hates Matt Smith's acting in this, and she doesn't
really. Okay,
yeah, she hates his ears, doesn't understand the Harrenhal thing, but she understands Game of Thrones more than any of you, trust me. But she doesn't get the ghost story stuff. She's like, but where is it coming from? I'm just like, it's haunted. That's the point of hauntings. Like you don't. They're very good at that. Like they don't give a reason for a haunting. No one, if there are ghosts, why do they happen? We don't fucking know.
So that was one of my favorite parts of this episode, because I'm very into, like, as far as this whole world goes, I'm very into like the magic and the witchcraft of it.
They killed it.
Obviously a lot of time, even in Game of Thrones and this show, they hint at Harrenhal being haunted.
Yeah.
There's no content behind it at all. And this week you find out it's literally built on a weirwood forest.
Right.
And they say Damon's bed is made of weirwood too.
Yeah, it's wild.
That, and I mean, Aegon the Conqueror burned it, and everybody burned alive inside of it. Like, so there's a lot of pain and suffering in that.
That's what I said. I said that to Karma. I was like, well, just like who would be haunting it? The thousands of people that have been killed there throughout time.
Yeah,
fucking whorehouse, like legit, like a murder scene. The whole thing, it looks like, and that's what I think they're just driving home. And that witch being there, and the fact that, like, literally, like Harrenhal is built next to this God's Eye thing. That's like a corner of magic in the world of Game of Thrones. Like that's where the children of the forest, the children of the forest, and the White Walkers finally met. It's where the children of the forest and the first men had like signed a pact to stop having war. That's a huge thing about Game of Thrones, the original series, that they never showed the God's Eye being like where the series ended. They should have, and everyone hates them for that. Like everybody expects like that's where Game of Thrones will end. It's the God's Eye. That's where everything ends, So, but yeah, that's why.
I definitely reading about that in that fucking humongous book.
You're breaking up.
I said I definitely remember reading about that, the God's Eye, in that humongous textbook thing.
Yeah, the World of Ice and Fire. Another great read.
Yeah,
now,
it's literally a textbook.
It's like 800 pages of history, like about a fake world.
Where are you guys at with Cole at this point? I mean, I know Similord, you've hated on him before. Is he gaining your?
I think he's actually becoming like my least favorite character in this, like in Thrones. Like I despise this man so much. At least like Joffrey is there's a couple times where he does shit where I'm like laughing. I'm like, all right, this guy's crazy, but sometimes he makes me laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ramsay Bolton's like one of my favorite characters in all of Thrones, so you're not going to get
Ramsay's
me saying a
great.
bad word about him.
Yeah.
But I cannot stand this fucking guy. The one thing I do appreciate is that every single chance he gets to throw salt on Rhaenyra, he takes.
Yeah.
Every single.
Yeah.
Dude, he loves calling her a whore.
Nobody-
He loves
Anytime.
the word, dude. He's single-handedly bringing back the word whore.
Yeah.
And even his troops, it's just like, yo, like he really seems like he pissed off about this bitch.
Yeah, dude. Like she never called back, bro. It's okay.
And I mean, he was willing to sacrifice half his army to basically just get burned alive for last episode. You know, that was the plan. You know, Allison's brother walks up to him and is like, "What did you do? This is crazy." And he's like, "No, this is all going to plan. Don't worry." And like, you just seen his guys get ripped apart. It's
Yeah,
just
well, that's kind of to show how, first of all, like Christian Cole is basically running the realm, right? Like he's running the realm. He's making all the moves.
seems like him and Aegon are like working together.
Yeah, Aemond are working
He's
together.
doing a pretty good job so far.
So this was to show that Kristen Cole and no one in that world right then knows what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to Dragon War, because look what happens when you try to plan for Dragon War, dude. They show many times in that episode, like Aemond is killing his own soldiers just to kill the other soldiers.
Yeah.
You know? And one time they just are fighting and they hit the ground. There's tons of the Greens die because of that, just because the dragon hit. Like, this is to show, and like Cole falls off his horse and like he almost died. It's to show that Cole knows nothing about what he's talking about. Cole is basically built to just be the biggest cuck in the book. Like, he is a loser, like just a fucking twad, the worst.
He does give. I will.
Oops, sorry,
He gives a
go
good
ahead, Mick.
speech. He gives a hell of a speech to get the guys going before that war. You know, when he sees Aegon on this dragon and he's like, "Your king has joined you." I was actually getting a little fired up. I'm like, maybe I'm gonna like Cole, and then he gets his ass kicked right off the horse, and he's like, exactly what I'm saying. He doesn't know what he's.
Representation of pussy could ruin a man, dude. Pussy, because like before and after pussy, that guy is like, I'm talking before he ever touched it, he was the man. Touched it, the monster he is now. Like, he's a monster, just a monster.
That's the point they don't bring up really at all. Rhaenyra corrupted him initially.
Oh yeah, yeah,
For sure. Yeah, no, it's her fault as well. Like, that's just one love triangle that's now spiraled into somebody else's problem.
Books,
You know?
that's more on the head. Like in the books, it's like Rhaenyra is like trying to hook up with this dude, and he keeps turning her down like 3 times, and then on the 3rd time, someone catches them. So, know how you said the books are from 2 different stories? One person says that it was happening the whole time, and he was lying, and the other person says that was the only time, and it never even really happened.
Right.
But that's basically the storyline of that.
See, that's the kind of shit that
I know a lot of
be
Game
very
of Thrones.
confused about reading. I feel like
I have like
they
my
did it a
doctorate.
little. What is it?
I have my doctorate in Game of Thrones, dude. I can tell you everything, bro. I knew all the kings in order at one point.
When did you start reading them? How old were you?
I was a
Like high school?
sophomore in high school, so 2006.
It's fucking crazy. The first book came out in like 96 or something, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think the last one came out in 2005, right? Wasn't Dance of
The last
Dragons
one came out in
2005?
2011, I want to say.
Oh, was it? Oh, my bad.
I think the one before that was
it was like 2009, but 2005
Alright.
was the one before that.
I didn't start reading them until I think the end of season 6.
Really,
I think so.
for like 4 years, I just
You watched the series first.
that's smart.
I'm wondering if I should do that or not, because I'm not a big reader, but I'm so into the series where I just downloaded the audiobook of Fire and Blood, the first one, right? Yeah, and
Yeah, that's what I just. That's what I just
That's
cracked open.
basically a
yesterday.
history book too, but that's just about the Targaryen king. So how we were talking about that other one's like basically a history book of the world. This one's just dialed in and more story about the kings, whereas the other one's the whole world. They talk about everything. So
You should get the Game of Thrones books. On
yeah, you should just do the original
just listen
series
and
first.
listen to those.
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
The Game of Thrones books, like I did the same thing. I watched the show before reading them, and there was a lot of storylines that aren't introduced in the show where I really enjoyed, and I was like, all right, I'm so glad I'm reading these.
Oh, there's so many better storylines in the books.
There are things that I like better and worse, but like for the most part, I like the things that weren't like that just weren't a part of it, basically. Like
Yeah.
I, especially in the 5th book is where they introduced Dorn big time, and I fucking loved that.
There's nothing
I
that
want a
doesn't
series
tie
of
in.
Dorn so bad.
There's nothing that doesn't tie in, and like everything virtually, geographically, time wise makes sense in the books. Every story, whereas the show would just take liberties on that. Like,
Yeah.
how did she get from here to here in that time? And
Yeah, right.
how does a fire priest die by freezing to death? That's weird. But like, that's where the book's like, he's fucking, I can't imagine what his like organizational system is to make sure he doesn't fuck up when he's writing, because it's like you have to know what is happening everywhere to even
That
write
guy,
it.
he's got a crazy brain. He's got it all. I mean, that guy's nuts.
He wrote himself into a corner. He can't get his way out.
That's
of it.
what it is. There's so many stories, he doesn't know how to end them.
Yeah.
It's really what's happening right now.
He just likes world building, so that he churned out those encyclopedias like no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
'Cause there's no, it's just
He can
broad.
make up character names. He can name them after anything he wants. But then, like, when you have to be like, all right, well, then where does this end? And how does your magic end? And how does this
Tie it all together, right? Yeah.
That's hard, which is understandable. But like, I think he has an advantage where like the Game of Thrones world shows the world, or shows the viewer, like the real world, Red Stark gets his head cut off. You just have when you least expect it, you know? So it's like the bad things happen no matter what. It's like, I always said it, Game of Thrones should just end where the world ends and it's just a black screen. Boom.
And the world
Like,
blows up.
the fucking Sopranos, like that. I think it's awesome.
Oh, all right. Let's see. We see Cole beheading some guys. That was shit. We see like the scene I talked about where Aemon's fucking embarrassing him in the small council, tugging some High Valerian. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed that.
Yep.
We see Damon dream again. We see the Allison scene. Let's go into the actual battle, I guess, itself.
Yeah.
We see so obviously this whole thing's a trap, which I obviously would have worked out perfectly if Aegon doesn't fly in on Sunfire like an asshole.
Drunk.
But the thing I think most people and myself are most confused about is why Rhaenys decides to like turn around and go back when like she's clearly off, she's free, she's scot-free, she can head back. She knows her dragon's the biggest. She knows it's the most battle tested. She knows it's important. So why go back into a battle you can't win?
I thought it just was her like mentality, being just like a warrior and being like, because she says to the dragon right before, like, you ready for battle? Like, we're going back into war, old girl, or something like that. I'm sure there's more of a deeper reason, but maybe she just saw a Targaryen on a dragon and, wanted to take him out.
Yeah, she told the queen, like she told Rhaenyra that she was coming back winning. She can't, that's like, remember, this is the first dragon battle that ever happened. You can't come back the loser of that, bro. Right. You can't come back the one that ran. So
she
I think
feared herself.
She's a bad bitch too. Right. She doesn't think she's gonna lose, Like,
she did do mad damage to Sunfire though. Like Sunfire is out of the. They already had a dragon advantage. They already got more dragons than the Greens do, and she effectively, for the most part, at least badly damaged Sunfire. We don't know if it's dead or not. Right, badly damaged it. That's a victory. Like, you burned up some of Cole's guys.
Yeah.
Fly on back. Be like, yo, they set a trap for me. I got out of there. I fucked up Sunfire. That's still a victory. Like,
she's also like a way more experienced fighter at this time. Like, she's an more experienced dragon rider. All this is like, she's a Targaryen, bro. She's not just being like, that's good enough. I think that's
right. She's probably their best dragon rider. Right?
Oh yeah,
I'd imagine so.
Other than Daemon, like Daemon and her would be equals. I would say, if anything, she actually has the better dragon. But
yeah, right. I was gonna say, we saw it week 3. As far as actual flying goes, I feel like that scene with Baela was the first time where I actually noticed somebody was like flying their dragon. It seems like everybody else is kind of sits on the back of it. It goes wherever it wants. They go Dracarys, and then boom, it lights shit on fire. Baela looked like she was actually like steering her fucking. She was driving that bitch.
She has a more manageable drive. Like, you have to think, Aemon's flying that old bird, dude. This thing is like a crabby old grandma right now. You could barely tell it what to do. Like, at one point,
the old beat up from your grandma. You can't get it started.
Get it to go, and it won't go. Like, the trap didn't really go right. He tries to get it to go, and it doesn't. So he has to wait. But like, that's to show that some of these dragons are more maneuverable, but some of them are just like, you saw the size difference. Like,
Vhagar is huge.
Yeah, they do such a good job of that.
Some of them have longer necks. Some of them have longer, more brutal tails. Like, they're all built different. in their own unique ways and shit. So it's like they all use them the fucking specific way they're built basically.
I love that scene in the end of season 1 when he thinks he gets away.
Yeah.
And then you see the silhouette of Vagar behind him.
Oh,
Great shot.
it's a great. It is very good shot.
Yeah.
They do kind of a similar one this week where it's the two dragons flying at each other, but it's from on the ground.
Yeah.
That's awesome shot.
Big thing in this episode and I said this to Carmen, like this is a huge like piece of news in the whole world of Game of Thrones is that Targaryens can burn, all of them other than Daenerys. She was the only one who can not burn by fire.
That's what I was thinking about.
All of them can burn. Yeah.
I assume they couldn't because there was a lot of that going on this week.
Sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they said that at all, because all the way up until like George mentioned this week, he said like up until then there were Targaryens that could and there were ones that couldn't, and it's like now all of a sudden the only one was Dany. So it's like, but there were kings in the past who have drank wildfire thinking they wouldn't die because they're
remember they Khal Drogo melted the gold to kill the brother because he didn't think.
Yeah,
I think that was partly because he didn't think he could burn him. Like
exactly. So why that happen? You know what I mean? Like fire doesn't kill the dragon. You know all that shit. So what do you guys talk? Like I think that was a horrible play. Real weird.
That's a great point. I was kind of wondering about that last night.
Yeah. And it was just mentioned this week. Like that's like updating the lore. Like what the fuck?
Retcon. Yeah, what you gonna do?
I thought.
I feel like I don't hate it though.
I don't hate it either because how this story ends. Trust me, you need it to be that way. So,
yeah. What'd you say, Mick? What were you gonna say?
For this episode, I thought one of the more telling scenes too, or I guess kind of goes along with the cinematography and how they set it up. When Rhaenyra is telling Jace the King Aegon dream, and it's just showing like the battle going on in the background, and it's like her narrating what's happening and why she's doing all this and how Viserys told her and whoever told him. I thought that was fantastic. I was literally getting goosebumps. Like this is gonna be crazy this next 20 minutes.
Love that scene, but when she said it's called The Song of Ice and Fire, I was like,
oh, that was not a real line in the book.
Yeah, 8 seasons of the old show. It is in the book, but like they spent the whole time of the last show, like no one knows that story. Like that's why the show is called The Song, because it's a secret. And like in this one, they're just
everyone knows.
It's everyone. It's in everyone's face. It's so disgusting. But that scene was awesome. How they did that. It was beautiful.
I thought a big thing, along with Rhaenys strapping in, that was very, very cool.
Yeah, see,
I liked the when Meleys scratches Sunfire, it like flies downward and it leaks blood out all over like the battlefield. Yeah. And like the blood that lands on the soldiers, they burn. Like if they burn, like turn. I didn't know if it was like fire blood or acid or some shit like that. But I thought that was very cool. I didn't see that coming at all. I was like, oh fuck, like that adds a whole nother fucking dynamic too into the battlefield and shit. If you have all these armies charging at each other and the dragons flying overhead, this is the thing that's probably going to happen pretty commonly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dragon
blood, like hot oil.
Yeah, dragon blood is like a magical property. Like they use it for spells and shit. Like it's a very magical like potion, I will call it. Like, and it's I would say it's mostly like hot oil, basically. I'd assume
it was
sweet.
Guys. It was sweet too when he put his hand on the burn guy.
Weird.
And like the ashes that like collapsed. That was
awesome.
So was that Alicent's brother? Was that who that was supposed to be?
Oh, I don't. Great point.
I have no idea.
I don't know how he's laid out.
He does say his name, and I thought that's who he was referring to, or he says someone's name. I don't know.
I think he calls him brother, maybe, but he's carrying the whoever it was the flag standard guy.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Alicent's brother was going to be a problem, but he wasn't.
No, he had no resolution at the end of the last. I don't know what happened. So he could.
I didn't even think about that. I could have
even talked.
I thought of it today. That's a great point you brought up.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if like he was the guy that actually like claims Rook's Rest. Like he was the one. He like got through the battle. He went up right to the castle. Was able to get success. You know what I mean? And he's like, "Where the fuck was Cole at?" And he was like, "Oh, look at that. You're here, dude. Cool. You missed the whole battle."
The point of this battle is that after this, Rook's Rest is obliterate. There's nothing. It's like dragons are nukes. Think of dragons as nukes, and then you're
Right.
fighting nuke with a nuke. So anywhere this happens, it's just gone.
Right.
So that's like what they're trying to show. Like, there's nothing really. They're claiming the victor. Like, there's no one that won that fight. They try to say that at the end of the episode. Like, no, you can't say any side won that.
Right.
So, and that's the point of every dragon, but there's no one that wins. You're just hurting your own family. And you see next episode, they're just dragging that cart with the head through it. And
Yeah.
dude, you're hurting your own family by doing that.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like,
Yeah.
that's a crazy move. Like
Yeah.
your sigil is literally a dragon, and you're
worship them.
dragging. Yeah, right. Exactly. It's
They're
ass
gods
backward.
to them. Like 100 years from now, what's going to happen to these dragons is because of shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
The source of your power is shit like Vagon.
Yeah,
So like it's literally dragons, and
Sigil,
that's a
bro.
weird move.
yeah,
Weird move.
weird. It's like a Stark carrying one of the dead wolf's heads through the city after they took it back.
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
So weird.
Oh, I think that was pretty much.
Oh well, I
for-
guess they do keep all the skulls.
Yeah, but because
they
they
do.
honor them, they keep them as like statues.
Yeah.
Like they pray to those things, you know.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Khaleesi shoots a bolt through it. The best scene, dude. I'm rewatching those old episodes. Cersei. I mean, Cersei is such a baddie, dude. I would
Oh,
love
fucking
the
best.
episode you're on Greyjoy because he's like, I just want that pussy, dude. I just want that pussy.
Probably like my favorite second. She's in my top favorite characters of Thrones. Top 3 for sure.
Yeah, she's a badass.
Yeah, she's
Fucking
my number
great.
one. Easy number one.
I told Luke the other day I named my cats Ramsey and Cersei. Two of them.
I'm a big
Two
old-
absolute psychopaths, and they actually act like it most of the time. They're fucking
there you
both
go.
nuts. I brought it upon myself. What can you do? I guess it closed out. We have Cole. He wakes up, goes over, finds Aemond over Aegon. So you guys think that he was pulling out his sword until Cole got there?
Oh, yeah,
right?
he was
Not-
gonna shoot
not
him.
sheathing it.
Yeah, he was gonna shank him. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
gonna fuck him up.
You should have. Well,
I thought they were gonna let it get closer too. I thought maybe he was gonna ignore Cole and just keep going, but then like pull away at the last second because he knew
That
Cole
would've
was
been old.
But yeah, no, it seems like Aemon has no use for his brother at this point. It doesn't even care. I mean, you saw him. He told his dragon to light him on fire. He didn't give a fuck.
yeah.
Which I find a little bit surprising because it seemed like even though he knew his brother was a moron, he kind of still was like like he was very,
That's
by the book. Like he's my brother still. He's the king. I want to make my
Right.
family
That's
proud.
literally to show the breaking point of where that just went down into the pooper. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think it was the hooker.
They just show up at the hospital or they show up at the brothel. I mean, and
Probably,
they
yeah.
make fun of him. And I don't know if that was like leading to it, but you could tell it pissed him off. But he didn't really show it. He kind of had to like walk out and be like, whatever.
he
So that was sort of like the Unsullied, where they're going to the brothel and they're getting like mothered almost. Like
Yeah.
he's laying there on his side. She's
Yeah,
like stroking his hair and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
So,
It's a good call.
but yeah, they have a shitty mom.
yeah. She was real shitty mom. Can we
She, like on two separate occasions, she's like, Aemond, you know what he is. Like, won't even call him out for what he actually is. She's like, he's such a monster. I can't even say it out loud.
basically told her other son, like, just shut up and let me do what I want, you little cunts. She and I don't like the girl that plays her. I don't like that character at all. Like, I don't like
The
Allison.
older Allison.
Yeah,
Really?
I don't.
Oh, I think she's awesome.
In the
I
book, she's
actually-
supposed to be older than Rhaenyra. That's the big point. But
She looks younger than Rhaenyra, the actress.
yeah,
is.
she does, and it like changes a lot. Like her and Rhaenyra really aren't friends in the book.
Right.
You're just saying early on.
Ever. Like, she's an older, like, she was taking care of the king. It made more sense. Like, know how the king marries like his daughter's friend? Like, that's real weird.
Yeah.
It's not in the book. She's like an older lady, and like the second the king dies, she just claims like none of this. He told her this secret and stuff is in the book.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
I think
he
that
just
for the-
closes the doors, bars the doors, and claims that her son's now the king.
Right.
And Rhaenyra can't get to Dragonstone because she's the rightful heir, and then all this shit goes down from there.
I would
Yeah,
imagine
well,
they did that
friends
to, like
are
pin them
huge.
against each other, right?
What's
Like,
that?
I would imagine the show did it for like promotion reasons, where you can have those like posters of like Allison and Rhaenyra on one side. You know what I mean? Like it's very just like Hollywood.
They did it to build the storyline, everything up to here a lot faster, basically.
I was doing recaps for season 1, and like I think it's episode 1. Rhaenyra's like laying with like her head in her lap, and she was like trying to get her to come for a ride on her dragon. So not like I'm not even talking about them being friends, which you just said was not in the books, which I think is crazy. I thought when I was watching the last show, I was like, Rhaenyra might have a little something.
I thought there was going to be like a lesbian. I thought there was going to be a lesbian thing.
Yeah,
I get that vibe.
Absolutely.
Just from the pilot episode, though, like not any ever again in the entire series have I got that vibe.
Which changes the whole, like, when she goes to see her in King's Landing to try and stop that war, that in the books, that's meant to show that, like, Rhaenyra is actually the better person here. And she goes to King's Landing, sneaks in, and like,
I think it still came off
by having to, they did, but it changes the whole perspective because she's not her friend in that, but like, she goes to do this, and like, not because she's her friend, like she knows that this is going to go well. It's because she's willing to risk. She's like, I have to stop dragon war. Like, I can't be the one that starts it, you know? So like, she risks everything, not for her friend, because she knows she'll be a safe like that at all, or some dream that's wrong, you know? It's just because she's not risking. But the show then takes it further and says, well, the dream was a big part of it, and you didn't know because that's a book you read, you know?
Right. Well, then they show Allison looking for the books. Remember, she gets mad at.
Good call.
Yeah, she's like, "Why'd you get rid of Viserys's books? Like, what, you know?" So I would imagine that it's related to her almost feeling stupid, like, you know, why don't I know this? And Rhaenyra,
when the clubfoot comes in and he sees that she's drinking the fucking Plan B tea, he says the same thing. He's like, I didn't realize you had a love for the histories.
Yes.
So she was already going through books, and then she went and asked Aegon for more books.
Yep. Yeah, she's like, where are these books at? So so she clearly wants to know what's going on.
The awesome guys, like, she's basically just mainlining Moon Tea at this point.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I totally thought the clubfoot seeing that. I was like, oh man, he's due for a little foot stuff. Pull those babies out. He's seen that shit.
That guy's so creepy.
He really is.
So creepy.
I love that the guy that's overwatching Harrenhal for him right now fucking knows too. He knows he's a scumbag. I love that.
Yeah, he totally does.
I'm a big fan of that guy. I don't know why. He's basically not a character. Yeah, he's good. I love him.
Yeah.
Even like when Damon, which was a good scene too. Damon's talking to the little kid. He's basically like the envoy for the old man.
Yeah.
And he tells him to fucking suffocate him with a pillow, which was great.
Yes.
What are you
talking about? I love my grandfather.
Yeah, for real. But even after the conversation, like Damon walks out and like the old the strong guy, he like looks over at the kid. He was just like, good job.
Good job. That guy's a
computer man.
Damon first takes over. He's like, I'm taking what's the name of the place they use? Harrenhal. And he's like, I guess you are.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you are. He doesn't even try to
You got it, dog.
Yeah. I loved it. No fight.
At one point,
what do you want to know? I got the 411 on everybody around here.
At one point in the past, that old king I was telling you about, Harrenhal is like, someone is holding Harrenhal, and his like aunt just comes back to the city, and he needs to give her a castle. And instead of like asking a lord to leave his castle, he just gives her one of the towers at Harrenhal, and they never know. It's that big. It's that big.
It's just that big.
That like there was 6 guys in there and 1 cook, and it's built for 10,000 men, the castle alone. So it's like it's an insanely, that's like to show like how Harrenhal is just this useless thing in the middle
empty,
of
right?
Yeah, it's just
we see that thing get turned over in Game of Thrones like
that's
5 or 6 times.
Yeah,
bro.
It's a liability, and they mentioned that.
It's basically the professor of dark arts in Harry Potter, how no one can hold a position. Same thing. It's
actually Laris mentioned that in the episode when she's like, "Why?" You know, when Aegon's like, "Why aren't you?" Or his name is like, "Why aren't you pissed?" He's like, "Well, because it sucks. It's a giant liability. It just tears you down. It takes a lot of resources to maintain it."
To maintain, like, not only to maintain it, they would have to like Damon said it in one episode. Like, we would repair this, and you can't man that castle because it's so big. Any guy could, like I said, get into one of the towers, and you don't even fucking know, dude.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can't, you're spread so thin that you're fucked. That's one of those small, subtle things that like he just drives home. Like, no one's getting this shit, dude. Like, you get it for 10 years, and then you get your fucking nuts chopped off.
I love the more information and more details they're giving us about Harrenhal. Harrenhal's a place.
Harrenhal's
Like I said, I'm a big fan of the magic aspect of the show, so
Yeah.
Harrenhal intrigues me big time.
Because that's something like the book readers knew about Harrenhal, where the show, like, they didn't have time to tell you the history, but like when they're there,
Right.
Show, it's like it's supposed to be, it's a horror, like, and not only like that shit's going on, they're also killing people in the courtyard to ask them questions and shit, so it's like that, it's just a cursed fucking place. I love that you're seeing inside of it more though, and everything now though.
Yeah. I'd say the one last thing I kind of had that I took away from this episode is anytime I see the cat's paw dagger, which is the dagger that ends up killing the Night King, I get like a little perked up in my seat. So we talked about like the End of Thrones, and while I didn't like the way they did it, I didn't mind that it was Bran. Like I didn't mind that it was Bran, the three-eyed raven that ended up on the throne. It was just how we got there.
Mm-hmm.
So like I like to just, whenever I see this dagger, I just like to think that like there somehow, some way, the three-eyed raven is basically watching like right now and just making sure that dagger
100%. Like that's the
goes
best
right along the line that it's supposed to.
That's the best part of the old seasons, like the end of them. Like every time a character gets to Winterfell, Bran's like, they have a scene where Bran's just like awkwardly skulking in the corner, looking at them like as
A
if
few times, yeah.
he's seen them in the shower like 900 times. You know what I mean? So it's that's a huge part of that. But like that dagger is what has the prophecy, right? Karn brought this up, like that has the prophecy written on it. And if it heats up, the prophecy is shown. So does Aemon now know the prophecy? Because if he takes that dagger, he's gonna see it. They've been driving home the point that he could read Valyrian real well.
That's true. Yeah,
That's a good. I like that.
Yeah, Aegon can't, so he probably doesn't even know about it. So it's like, yeah,
It's hot.
It might have just naturally happened too, like you said. Like, yeah, exactly. The dragon fucking falls to the ground, explosion of fire or whatever. Then Aegon's laying there with the blade. It just naturally fucking comes out. Aemon picks it up, reads it. I like that.
And Carmen just brought up, Allison hasn't even told Aegon the prophet. Like, she can't claim this prophecy is why he's on the throne. Like, he doesn't even really know that prophecy right now. You know, so it would be Aemon who finds it out, if anything. So
I'm saying Allison just knows that it was Aegon's dream, or that was it.
She doesn't know anything about it, right?
When Rhaenyra calls her out for getting the name wrong because she's a dummy, she doesn't know anything about the dream or anything like that. So,
but Rhaenyra does also now know that Allison was not lying.
Oh yeah.
So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
That's a huge, like, her face dropped in that.
She's like, did he say it that way? Or
yeah, her face, her like stomach dropped. It was great.
Yeah,
great scene.
Now I wonder what that means for Jace going forward. Is Jace just going to be kind of protected at all costs? Is he going to be? Because I thought Jace was going to be fucking one of the guys leading. Like, obviously Daemon, head honcho, but then I thought that Jace would be basically the number 2 as far as leading this army.
I could tell you what happens, but
I don't want you to.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah, I want to find out.
She does something to me. Like, it's all in this next episode. I think is going to be just as big as this last episode. It's great. I love battle episodes in Game of Thrones, but the episodes after battle episodes are usually the better. It's always good. But like, you're going to like how that storyline goes for sure. Definitely.
Hell yeah.
He's the man. I like Jace. He's like,
he seems cool. I'd like to see more of him. He's just not doing much yet.
Yeah, his dad was the man too, like a good dude. Nothing like just having a good dude in Game of Thrones.
I'm with you. He's like one of the only likable people that doesn't have a big fault or anything like that. Like, he's just seems like he means well.
Yeah,
and like, I could be telling you something that does happen, and they're gonna do something. That's the best part of this story. Like,
you never know.
Always tells you a story that's from a third person's point of view that might be wrong anyways. So the show can go whatever way they want. They have the luxury of that because of that exact reason. So it's like, I could tell you exactly what happens and that will not happen. You know, it's not like who Jon Snow's actual name. Like, it's completely different, you know?
Yeah.
We talked about that like different viewpoint thing actually earlier and how people interpret it different depending on the character. We saw that big time in season 1 with the scene where Cole beats the shit out of that guy to death.
Yeah.
Like Daemon and Rhaenyra about the kiss. The king's watching it, but then that outbreak happens. You don't know why or what happened. It's off screen. You also don't know if they kissed or didn't kiss.
Yep.
Yeah. that was a big time. Like I feel
that's a huge part of this storytelling, because like Luke said, all the books are told, all the chapters are a character's point of view. So like this chapter is told by Davos, this one's told by Jaime Lannister, this one's, so like you're seeing all these things happening in the world from that character, so you're getting to know them more, plus what's going down, you know. So like that's a genius way of fucking storytelling.
It is very cool.
Read books now that aren't in that writing. I'm like cursed because of it. Like, but that's how it, and it's great because you get to see some randomly, like you get Podrick's point of view on thing, you know. That's awesome. Like that's awesome, you know.
Right.
Is it 3 and 4 or 4 and 5? I think it's 3 and 4. You just get like complete, like half the people aren't in the book, literally at all.
It's so brutal. That's because that was
3 and 4.
That was one book. They split into two. It's 3 and 4. Yeah.
Feast for Crows and a Storm of Shadows or something.
One half of it
quite
is
literally half of the characters are just not in the book, and then the second one of 4, the other half of the characters are just not in the book.
One half is that girl. That's the Dornish the Dornish princess. She's the worst.
See, I don't even like her, but I love Dorn. I want to show that so bad. It's just fucking. It's just
I never liked
love.
Dorn.
Woodstock, fucking. What is it?
Burnt by a dragon, dude. He goes in like he's like, yeah, I want that box, and then he's like, tell that dragon to blow his fire at me, and then he's like burnt to a crisp. He gets fucking murked by a dragon. That dragon is like, who, dude? A great storyline in the show. They were like, you know what? How about we just have these 3 bitches stab the guy?
Oh man, it's so bad, dude. The sand snakes are so lame in the show. It's so bad.
I have a question for you. Who had better titties, that sand snake or Melisandre? Like
Melisandre, dude.
Oh, wow, quick calls from both of us.
Those are undefeated. Those things are so good.
But the one sand snake is hot too.
Oh, she's fantastic. But
that scene's very good too.
That scene's great with Bronn. Yeah.
He's like choking out. It's a great scene. But yeah, no, I like I said, I would love a fucking, I don't know. I think that they're going to do that 1,000 chip series. I think that'll be pretty heavily going. I'm pretty sure
that would be cool because there's a war between where the Targaryens came from, like them, and what is considered Egypt in their world, like old Gis, which is like an old civilization that the Targaryens wiped out, and then this girl takes all these boats and beats them all, and then makes it to Dorne. Basically, it's a great story too.
The woman
Nymeria.
Nymeria. They named the wolf after.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Arya's wolf.
Oh, I saw this.
They mentioned her story. I feel like a couple times. Actually, that's how this show started. House of the Dragon. Alice and Rhaenyra are reading the book.
Yes,
that's right.
I knew they mentioned it more than once.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the, like, that's where like Dorne, they all went to Dorne, and then she burnt all the ships, and it's a big ordeal.
Yeah, free love. They like to fight and fucking fight. It sounds like a good time.
Whenever Dorne is threatened with war, like whenever the aggressor shows up, everyone disappears. They let them take the cities and then slowly just murk them one by one, and then it's just a waste of time war, and they just go back to their shit. It's like, where do they go hide?
like Afghanistan.
Exactly. That's showing the Afghanistan war.
Unbent, unbowed, unbroken.
Yeah. There's fucking chemical weapons there, dude. That awesome princess dies though with the dragon, the Aegon's wife.
Lena. Yeah, we saw her again this week. I have no idea why she would haunt Daemon. We don't. Maybe it's something off screen, but they don't do a lot of that in the show. But I don't. From everything we saw, it seemed like Daemon and Lena were in a happy relationship.
Yeah,
or at least for throne standards.
Yeah.
So I was kind of confused to see her haunting him.
Dreams are fucked up. I love anything that goes into dream content. Dreams are fucked.
She wasn't doing much either. She was like, it wasn't like she was Rhaenyra, like saying these wild things that, like, she was just pouring cups of wine.
Yeah. I saw KFC did this thing of talking about who would your starting 5 Game of Thrones players be if you had a basketball court. That's a good question. Like, who would your starting 5 be if you had to play basketball with Game of Thrones characters?
The Mountain, obviously.
Yes, I'd take Sir Duncan the Tall. Like, there's so many good picks. That's a good draft. If we weren't an hour in, you can do a whole episode.
Yeah, I could go
definitely.
for a while. I know he's not. You said Game of Thrones, but I'm telling you, Damon would make a hell of like a wing 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it'd be like it'd be great.
People be bouncing off him, bro. Dude,
I'm trying to run Rob Stark and Damon on the wings.
Oh, there you
Just setting them up. Oberyn Tyrell is my point guard.
Oh, I would get Elena Tyrell as my point guard.
There you
go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I think this show is knocking it out of the park this season. Like last season, I was not hooked. And even this season, like it took me to last episode to be hooked, but I'm hooked now. Like I'm back into like listening to old Game of Thrones stuff. I'm like watching old shows. So like that means I'm hooked back in.
That's where I'm at. I'm listening to podcast. I'm listening to Cinema Lords every week. Him recap it.
I love your recap.
I'm all over it. So I think this season's been great.
Appreciate it, boys. Yeah, no, this episode was big for me. Like I said, I really liked the pilot. 2 and 3, I was kind of, iffy on, but this sucked me right back in. I'm very, very excited for this week. I want to know what the fuck Damon's going to do. I think that's my biggest question mark right now.
Right. He's got to get involved with all this stuff. He's got to be. Yeah, I agree.
He got word. He got a Raven. He knows that Cole's moving and shit. So
yeah. And real quick, who's Cole communicating with? Is Cole communicating with Eamon? Because he keeps getting notes right before like important things happen, and I don't know what the thing, but it happened this week right before the battle happened, and I imagine him and Eamon were planning to do that surprise, but like that note seemed like it had something else to do with.
Did he take that note positively or negatively when he read it?
He smiled. He seemed like he smiled a little bit.
So that must have been from me.
That's when he decided that they were moving in on the attack. That was that was right before they moved in.
But why would you need a Raven to tell you? It was odd because he had the signal in place. I just didn't. It would be.
That's because of the dragon. So he doesn't know if that dragon's going to do what he wants. Like I said, he doesn't know if that dragon's going to be like, I want to sit here and eat all the goats and get ending, or I'm going to go rip a dragon neck.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I did love seeing Vhagar just like as soon as Eamon was like, not yet, dude. He was just like, sick. I'm going back to fucking bed. He literally just hit the snooze button on fucking Vhagar, and Vhagar was just like sick.
That's a girl. Vhagar's a girl.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's
She's a badass lady, is what she is.
She sure is.
Don't gender dragon assume, bro. They'll fuck you up, bro.
So we knew, like I said, we knew Melee's was the biggest one for their side. Now you'd have to imagine we're gonna need a serious team up. We're gonna need to take like fucking 2 or 3 dragons to take on this motherfucker.
There's some bad fucking bitches out there that are unclaimed right now.
That one we saw fucking Damon singing to, it's hard to tell because it was inside of a fucking cave, but that thing was pretty big.
The untamed, the one that hasn't been like found or whatever.
Yeah, at the end of season 1, he like goes into some cave, he's singing some song in Valerian or whatever. And then we just see some dragon fucking roar a bunch of flames.
They showed one of the untamed dragons this season. It was the bastard dude looking out into the sea. That's sea smoke.
Yeah, Laenor's dragon, right?
There's a dragon called like the cannibal or something, isn't there?
Yeah, there's the cannibal. There's the sheep stealer.
The cannibal.
There's because like 2 of them just are dicks. Like
there's like wild dragons on Dragonstone. I think the cannibal's one.
2. So there's 2 wild ones. Rhaenyra's side has 6 dragons untamed, but like unclaimed, but they're tamed.
Okay.
Yeah. But then the other side has to find their own, and they get their own dragon seeds, and they have 2 that are just roaming wild. One's the sheep stealer, and then the other one's the one you saw, that sea smoke or whatever.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. I know, like, we just mentioned Laenor real quick, but I know he supposedly, like, just dies basically in the books, and he kind of did that whole Gendry, like, row off on a little boat. He has to come back in this series.
I don't know.
That'll be different from the books.
Yeah. I'm excited to know what happens with that.
Yeah, like Thrones give people happy endings, and they don't really let people die unless you see their bodies. So I feel like he's going to have to be back in some capacity at some
Speaking
point.
of Gendry got a happy ending. If you watch that story in full, Gendry has storyline. They go to him. They're like, "We might need you." He's like, "I'm in." And he takes his giant hammer and he fucks everybody up from there. He just fucks everybody up.
Ends up fucking head of the Riverlands, right? Oh, the Storm's End.
Just
Storm's
like,
End.
he's chill as fuck in the books. Like, he gets this girl, this bastard chick. Like, yeah.
I think they're gonna do some sort of like a Sex and the City spinoff with the Valerian that He thought he
Lenor?
died. We were just talking about the gay one. We were just talking about.
Oh,
like,
Yeah.
They're gonna show him like towards the end. He's gonna be an Essos. He's gonna be like super gay, and he's gonna
Yeah.
like it'll be like Sex and the City's
On
with him, like his
Bravo.
buddies. Yeah.
Game goes to Bravo. That'd be
Like
huge.
Cullinane will be like really into it.
Yeah, Colin doing TikTok videos on it. Can you believe his armor?
Oh shit. Do you guys have anything left about this week or no?
Yeah, that's it for me.
Other than her dying, that's a huge death. Big blow.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah,
She showed herself to be a pretty badass character.
Well,
Like I said, I
also-
loved that strapping was very cool.
Yeah.
It's
Keegan
kind of annoying.
burns beyond belief at this point. His metal is actually fused. The metal in his armor, which is Aegon the Conqueror's armor and crown, is fused to his skin.
That's right.
So that's
Forgot
what
about that.
off. I won't tell you what happens to him, but he makes it through that. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, like I said, unless you see dead body on screen, there's no way. Like,
Which he even kind of did this week. He was kind of dead.
yeah.
He was
Why did Eamon even have his short out too? Unless he was fucking
Yeah,
gonna go
and
through
they
stuff?
he was going to end it. You know,
Allison and next week say like, is he dead? Is he alive? And it's like they're not gonna ask that question unless
his
Right.
I think the bigger question is if Sunfire is okay or not.
right
Yeah.
the dragon.
'Cause that thing we saw it get fucked up by Melee's a little bit, a couple scratches, and then obviously it plummeted to the ground
yeah.
from
Beautiful
super high.
dragon.
Yeah,
Great color.
Yeah, they did do a good job. I feel like really
Yeah.
showing the gold and shit of that
Yeah.
one. And the red too of Melee, which obviously is the name of the episode, the Red Dragon and the Gold. But
Yeah.
that gold dragon was my favorite one so far. Just like
Oh,
it
yeah.
looked so cool. I mean, I know Aegon sucks riding it, but
There's a blue one I want to see. I haven't
Yeah.
seen the blue one yet.
I thought this Bayla's last week was kind of cool too. It was like fucking like green and white, like
little
stripe.
smaller
That's
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are like little jet fighters, dude. The
Yeah.
little-
Yes, that's a good. Yeah,
just chomped up. You got to use those like strategically, like
Right.
You know what I mean? Just quick guerrilla hits. But no one knows how to use dragons in war.
right. They're just trained to like fly them. No one's
They're
like
just
all
trained to,
these
like,
are
intimidate people,
untrained. Yeah,
not
untrained for
fight
war.
against each other.
Right.
I'm very curious. Like we haven't seen Jace's dragon aside from when he flew off last season at the end of basically to fly off that message, but we didn't get a good look at it.
Yeah.
It's small. It's very small. It's one of the
Yeah.
small ones.
No shit. No bueno.
No
But yeah, no, I don't think if that's it. I think that's all we got, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having
No,
us.
Thanks for coming on, boys. I appreciate
sure.
it.
For sure. We'll have to maybe do it again at the end of the season. We'll have to do a round table and everything.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But all right, yeah, we'll talk to you guys again next week for an episode 5 breakdown. Thanks as always to Kirk Minahan for putting the show up on the network. Thanks to the boys, Luke, Mick, John. Appreciate all you guys coming and doing the show. We'll talk to you guys next week.